comes courtesy of our friends over at The View. When I say our friends over at The View, I mean the low IQ idiots who are on panel at The View. And yes, you are a complete stupid idiot. My God, she is so stupid. This is the same lady who thinks everything is racist. Everything and everyone is racist, except Hitler and the Holocaust. Genius, Whoopi Goldberg.
Ben Shapiro is infamous for routinely obliterating the intellectual sinkhole that is The View. He views the show as a platform for delusional women who believe their opinions on trending topics are somehow insightful, when in reality, they often spew poorly fact-checked liberal takes based on mainstream media narratives. But before we jump in, I've got a quick favor to ask. If you're enjoying this content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's get back into it. First, let's talk about how much Ben Shapiro has expressed his desire to appear on The View. It's no secret that Ben has been vocal about wanting to step into the lion's den and face off against the host.
Lifelong ambition to actually be a guest on The View. They'll never have me on, of course, because it would go horribly for them.
Let's be real. He probably didn't expect the level of nonsense coming from one of the most infamous women on that show, Whoopi Goldberg. Ben doesn't hold back when it comes to calling out Whoopi. In fact, one of his biggest targets is Whoopi's shocking comments about the Holocaust. For Ben, a Jewish man, her remarks are nothing short of offensive.
The Holocaust isn't about race. No. It's not about race.
No, it's about a different race.
But it's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man.
No.
Whoopi, in a moment of sheer ignorance, suggested that the Holocaust wasn't about race. Ben was quick to express his disbelief, pointing out the ridiculousness of this statement.
It's not about ideal race. But these are two white groups of people.
Ah! Not only is that the worst clip in the history of The View, that is the worst clip in the history of television. Like, all of television history.
He made it clear that for someone who constantly makes everything about race, the Holocaust, arguably the most racially motivated genocide in history, can't possibly be excluded from that framework.
Goldberg is obnoxious and stupid beyond all measure. The Holocaust was not about race. Ask the Nazis. The entire Holocaust was about race. All of it. Which is why they didn't just pick on Jews who observed Judaism. They picked on anyone who had quote-unquote Jewish blood. The entire thing was about race.
What's truly frustrating for Ben is that the Holocaust isn't some abstract event. It's a cornerstone of world history. To reduce it to man's inhumanity to man, as Whoopi did, is a gross distortion of facts, one that trivializes the suffering of millions.
Man's inhumanity to man. Nope. It is about a genocidal attempt to exterminate the Jews, which has a thousands-of-year-old history. And yes, it was rooted in race.
Ben's frustration is palpable. It's not just that he's Jewish. It's that such an ignorant statement is allowed to be broadcast to millions without a challenge. Who could possibly call the extermination of 6 million Jews anything less than a racially motivated atrocity?
And yes, you are a complete stupid idiot. My God, she is so stupid. This is the same lady who thinks everything is racist. Everything and everyone is racist, except Hitler and the Holocaust. Genius, Whoopi Goldberg.
But Ben isn't just criticizing Whoopi for one slip-up. She's not alone in making wildly ignorant statements. Other The View hosts have made their own contributions to this ever-growing collection of absurdity. Whoopi may have competition when it comes to outrageous remarks, but Ben's point about The View being a repository of stupidity is only further validated as we see more examples of what goes on behind that set. Take, for instance, a moment when Whoopi made a shocking comparison between the US and Israel and terrorist groups like Hamas and the Taliban.
And comparing the US, Israel, Hamas, and the Taliban as all terrorist organizations. And she has maybe way more knowledge and experience in the very complicated Middle Eastern relations. But I did find that being on a foreign committee and comparing the country to a known terror, those are organized terrorist communities, that, not Israel, but Hamas and the Taliban.
When Ben heard this comparison, he could barely contain his disbelief. How could anyone, let alone someone with the platform Whoopi holds, make such a misguided, outrageous claim? Of course, Whoopi didn't hold back, and her response left viewers shaking their heads.
And that depends on who you talk to.
Right. Well, I mean, that's how they're recognized as as terrorist organizations.
But it does depend on who you talk to.
Well, they're recognized in this country.
Depends on who you talk to. Whoopi, always available to sign in to both compare Israel and the United States to terrorist organizations and also compare terrorist organizations to apparently not terrorist organizations. Like, Hamas is not a terrorist organization?
Let's see what Ben has to say on this.
Oh, man. It is amazing because Whoopi is sort of seen on this show as sort of the wise old sage. And I have to say, you need better sages.
The worst part? Other members of the show rarely challenge her. When they do, it's often more about keeping the peace than genuinely calling out the absurdity. Ben's frustration with The View is clear. He doesn't just find it amusing. He finds it disturbing that such low IQ statements are often met with agreement or, at best, passive acceptance. He points out that on The View, if you fail to participate in the daily insanity, you risk being singled out for having even a hint of intellectual independence.
It's interesting that a lot of the English language has to be rethought. Blackmailing is negative, black sheep, negative. I can think of a few others if I had the time, but those words are kind of like embedded in our psyches and maybe need to be changed. Why is a black sheep a bad thing and a white sheep is a good thing? Why? They're just sheep.
Well, it's not the words. It's not the words, it's the way we think about it.
It's beyond scary that The View has been airing for years, continuously pushing divisive narratives and making headline-grabbing remarks that do nothing but fuel political polarization. Ben often jokes about how the show is like a circus, with women acting as if they are paragons of equality while at the same time spewing some of the most inflammatory, ignorant rhetoric on the airwaves.
You're right, Joy. Probably they started saying black sheep versus white sheep, not because of the commonality of the sheep, but because of black people in, like, rural Europe. Nailed it. Yeah, it's about, what, African-American sheep. This is so stupid. It's about black male, like black people male in the...
But the View isn't just limited to Whoopi's blunders. Joy Behar has also made her fair share of outrageous comments. Ben can't help but notice that these women seem to disregard basic fact-checking and truth in favor of making grandiose statements that fit their liberal narrative.
I don't think that kids in this country are learning our history. They're not learning about slavery. They're not learning about Jim Crow. They don't understand the history of black Americans in this country. If they did, they would then understand white privilege better. So my suggestion is start teaching this stuff. It's deplorable, again, that word, that they do not learn history, period. I mean, people who are young, under 50, don't know who FDR was.
Ben brings up Joy's eagerness to defend black people, a well-intentioned but dangerously misguided effort, given how often her remarks end up reinforcing racist stereotypes.
What is she talking about? We all learned in school about slavery and Jim Crow and FDR. Honestly, it's the people who are teaching DEI crap in public schools who actually don't care whether the kids know who FDR is. Those kids don't know the first thing about history, but they know that people are victimized.
Ben calls it out. When Joy tries to be the ultimate ally, she ends up stepping in it badly. The fact that she doesn't seem to recognize how her views are harmful is part of what makes her one of the most dangerous commentators on the show. The online backlash she faces only proves that people see through the facade. If she continues down this path, she may just overtake Whoopi for the title of most absurd remarks on The View.
She said, I grew up in a world where a woman who looks like me with my kind of skin and my kind of hair was never considered beautiful. So, do her words resonate with you at all?
Because you're a black person?
Now, let's circle back to one of Whoopi's most cringeworthy moments, when she berated men for having a say in the debate over what happens to fetuses. Ben's reaction to this was pure gold. He pointed out the glaring contradictions in Whoopi's arguments. After all, if liberal ideologies are so inclusive and progressive, how is it that Whoopi, one of their own, couldn't recognize the potential transphobic and ageist implications of her words? It's a head-scratcher, especially when you consider the standards the left holds for everyone else.
Any of you men have any eggs or the possibility of carrying a fetus? How dare you talk about what a fetus wants? You have no idea. I'm fine if you disagree with abortion. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, you do.
My problem comes when you tell me what I need to do with my doctor and my family. How dare you?
How dare you?
How dare you?
Ben's take on this moment is both hilarious and insightful. He wonders why Whoopi, who's supposed to be the wise elder on The View, is constantly spouting such uninformed and clueless statements. For someone who's had so many years in the public eye, isn't it strange that she keeps making such fundamental mistakes?
I have a few questions many questions on this, as it turns out. First,
transphobia.
Massive transphobia. If you don't have eggs, you can't. Are you saying that some women can't be men and some men can't be women? Are you saying that unless you have eggs, you're not a woman? Is that what you're saying, Whoopi Goldberg? Also, if that is the new standard, how about women who are postmenopausal? Whoopi Goldberg? Can they have opinions on? I mean, you can't have a baby right now, I assume. How old is Whoopi Goldberg? She's in her 60s.
At the end of the day, Ben doesn't pull any punches when it comes to The View. There's just too much material to work with, and he's more than happy to take the show apart one ridiculous comment at a time.